think that I have changed my view about what sales development is because I feel like I used to think that sales development could be a career-long thing. And I think it is still. But I think the way that I'm viewing it has changed based on what I've seen for growth in my own career. I still do sales development. I think I default there. But at the same time, my role has changed. What I'm compensated for has changed. The function that I bring to the table every day when I'm doing my job has changed. And that is growth and development, right? Let's talk a little bit about the paths, I think, for a moment, because as you stated, we have to know where they want to go. And we have to start coaching to that. So we're building this team of sales development monsters, and we want them focused on two things: what they currently get compensated for, but also how are they getting where they want to go? How do we find the balance? Rachel, I think I want to start with you.
Yeah, it's really important to identify what that path looks like within the organization that you're in, because the upfront should already know if there's a path to account executive or to CSM or to even marketing. And then what are those particular path creations, what I would call a field readiness plan of when the person comes in, how long they're supposed to ramp for, how long you'd like them to be in seat, and then what is that enablement path that's ultimately going to take them to their next step in their career. And those conversations should be happening early and often. We don't have that conversation when someone's already been an SDR for 2 years. We should be having that conversation and driving that interest from when they first are interviewed, and trying to understand what their passion is, what they may be interested in. And if they don't know, helping to educate them as well.
Johnny, I know you got a few things to say on that. What do you got, buddy?
I think that this is a role that is obviously connected into a lot of different departments. And when we have on what we talk about multi-threading or leveraging your pods, obviously this is a role as an SDR, you're normally aligned with some account executives. And there's a lot of things you can learn there, but they might be in a pod of a customer success manager or a solutions engineer. And I think the relationship with marketing is also extremely important. And as we mentioned before, in a role that is at times fueled by rejection, to be able to make things easier for yourself up front, to learn things from the customer success manager who may know where certain entry points of the account might be, or to be able to get some intent-based account research from the marketing team. That's extremely vital information when you're in the role. To what you said, James, how do we focus on the present? And then in the future, when you're working with those pod teams as an SDR, you may come to find that maybe post-sales is for you, or maybe taking on more of a marketing path could be your path as well. So I think it's kind of a double, sort of like a mutually beneficial thing on both ends there.
Yeah, I think we come in and we see an SDR role as something that is initially a monster we have to slay, right? And then once we get good at it, we talk a lot about like the path and where it starts and where it finishes. If you'd have told anybody when I started as an SDR that I'd end up hosting events at John Barrows at JB Sales, I would have said, you're crazy. That will never happen. I'm an SDR, right? But here I am doing this job. And I think we silo ourselves into that traditional path instead of following the things that we might be passionate about.
Well, I really think that in terms of multi-threading, it's using and looking at this role as a role that has a lot of resources. And there's a lot of time management aspects to the role as well. And we'll talk about that in the upcoming slides. But at the end of the day, if you're someone that can come in and use vital resources to your advantage, this is a role that you can see a lot of success in. And don't look at it as if you're on an island and sort of on your own out here. It's also a role that is very collaborative with your peers. It can be competitive in a friendly and progressive way. But with leveraging different pods to get the story to build up before you even go into the account, or to go in to doing contact research within an account to actually reach out to people, how much of it can you make your job a little bit easier to get that extra information up front, to be prepared, right? I think preparation is key.
Yeah, preparation, definitely a part of everything that we do. And the more prepared we are, the more successful we're going to be, no matter what the endeavor, right?
I would create a survey, and a survey that allows you, that's anonymous, to understand where the SDRs are coming from. And put things in the survey, not just about what do you think about the KPIs, but how are you feeling? What do you think about the culture here? What kind of support can your leaders give to you? Because then you're getting real feedback in real time, but don't just get the feedback, act on it. and making sure that you're communicating back with the SDRs what that feedback looks like and what are the action plans that you're going to take in regards to that particular feedback. So from zero to ramp, I really look at the first 90 days and what are we trying to accomplish in that first quarter? Initially, the first month is going to be about learning, and what type of learning path you're breaking down is based off of how quickly you'd like them to be active. I want them to be active after 30 days. And because of that, it's really about the particular workflow and what the expectations are, how they use the tools, and how do they manage their day-to-day. After the first 30 days, then that's when we really start breaking down time management and doing call shadowing and understanding how they are going to move from ramp up into it being a fully productive SDR. When you start off with a ramp, there's a ramp number in regards to activity. At some point, they will have to get to the full number, and it can't go from day one at having 15 dials a day to day two being at 60, 70 dials a day. There has to be a progression to get there week over week in order for them to start being successful in bringing in opportunities after they come out of the ramp itself. I suggest having some sort of learning path that can be modified as you're identifying different product launches within your organization and always making sure to update that quarter over quarter so that your SDRs are getting the most recent information in regards to particular products, how your tools are working, what your particular workflows are. And then when you move them into being off ramp, the career path is then about how do you have them be a consistent performer, continually improve on their performance, and then eventually being someone that's considered a senior SDR, where instead of being about themselves and their own metrics, they're also looking at how do they support the overall team and helping to develop new folks that are coming on board as well.
Yeah, I love that there's like a metamorphosis that goes from like brand new to a little bit of success to very successful to helping others win. That path seems like a really winning path for most SDRs. No matter where you're at in that journey, we commend you for being an active member and helping other people win. Johnny, what are your thoughts on this? Creating a successful person, present state, future state. What's that look like in your mind?
Yeah, I think that, to kind of even combine this point and even the last, like onboarding and enablement is critical. And to have sort of a standard of kind of the progression of that. When you start off as an SDR, if it's your first time around, there's kind of three main buckets. You have to learn the systems. Let's say it's, all the tools that you're using to prospect, to store data, to have, your systems run through. You also have to learn at most companies a bit about the product to understand what you're selling, be able to speak to it with conviction. And then you have to learn generally how to just be an SDR and how to do outreach, how to handle objections, how to pivot, right? And start to build that sales acumen up. So within those three buckets, you can't do all of that, in 1 week. And you also can't stop enabling and sort of onboarding that after a month, right? It has to be continuous. And I think to have some sort of success guide or a success person of sorts, whether that's some of the senior SDRs on the team, being able to mentor an SDR. I think mentorships are extremely vital to a role like this. And to be able to carry through that journey so that, you're getting 1% better every day. It's something that I've been pretty huge on, especially for those brand new SDRs.
Yeah, SDRs coming in with that focus of getting 1% better every day, they tend to ramp faster. They tend to be more successful faster. And that mentality carries them on through that career. JC has a good question. 7 upvotes here. What KPIs do you all measure with your teams? Good question.
Yeah, from a KPI perspective, I look at what are the daily KPIs. So in regards to activities, the phone calls, emails, LinkedIn, and if you have video is always great. Also looking at that from a weekly average. So not just the daily, but how that is looking over the week. A really important indicator, though, is the amount of active prospects and active accounts that someone's working. So they're not calling into the same people over and over again, but they're continuing to build out particular accounts or adding more accounts into their workflow. And then the last KPI is how they're performing for a particular month or quarter based off of their quota measurement, and then that conversion into pipeline.
There's the big macro metrics that you need to look at that are definitely key KPIs that you should be looking at. But then there's the smaller things that make a smaller impact on the bigger picture. And we can drill down to those nitty gritties. I think one of the ones that I'm seeing a lot of with marketing and sales leaders that are embracing their reps, creating personal brands, is how often do they post content these days? Right? Because personal branding is something that drives a lot of attention. So I'm seeing a lot of that kind of stuff come into the picture as KPIs that people are measuring.
I do feel that depending on the forum as well, like what is public? Is that in front of the team? Is that in front of the entire revenue organization? Right? There's some lines there, but in terms of this being a role that we've discussed many times today, it could be maybe one of the first steps of your career, or you could be more greenfield and experienced. You're not, don't be afraid to fail fast, right? And you should teach that in private, right? And be able to course correct and take constructive criticism and to be able to action that right away. But in terms of praising in public, I think that in a role that we've said is kind of fueled by rejection at times, every no is leading to the yes, you might need a little bit of praise every now and then to kind of get you through that day, right? And to really be able to push through and to continue to align yourself of, here's why I'm here, here's how I'm doing this, here's the light at the end of the tunnel.